Well, hello, family. Welcome back. Blessed to be joined by Curtis and in checking some authors that I was just introduced to by Dave Weiss. And it's a blessing because he showed me their work. He sent me the link and I was able to check it out before I even talked to him. And I was blown away. I was on my couch for however long it took me to go through that book and listen to all the words page by page. And it's a book that does what I've been trying to do with Creation Standard, but in a very short window of time. It sets a good foundation for biblical cosmology, proving all things and experiments. And so, welcome, guys. I'm glad that you guys have had the boldness to do this in the first place. It's something that it's hard to do, putting yourself out there, putting a book about biblical creation out there with your names and your faces and
hmm
all of that. I know that is scary, and you guys have done that. And so, thanks for all your work, first of all, but tell us a little bit about this project, what got it started, and how all this came about in the first place, because I'm sure there's a powerful testimony in there somewhere with the creation of a work like this.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for having us, and it's such a pleasure and honor to meet you and be able to share what God's been doing in our lives. But yeah, I guess years and years ago, guys, as a believer for most of my adult life, just kind of learning about uh, Christianity. I learned the fundamentals of Christianity, but there's a lot of things that were not highlighted that were in the Bible that really kind of, God started bringing to light, like Nephilim, and beyond just that, like conspiracies, like 9/11, and the more I dove into those topics, the more things just kept coming up. And eventually, like I said, around 2014, 2015, came across Mark Sargent's Flat Earth Clues, and that just kind of blew my mind. I'd never considered flat Earth before that point. I thought we had already settled that, that we're on a spinning globe like we're taught as kids. And when I started listening to his questions, I was like, "Whoa!" Like he's actually making a lot
Making
of
too much
sense.
sense.
He's making way too much sense.
Wow. Were you guys together at that point?
Yeah, we were married. Yeah,
Early,
but it
very
was
early.
early on in
We've
our
been married
marriage.
11 years now, but
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
So yeah, it's pretty.
Newlyweds.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Well,
I guess so.
I
Always,
guess.
always.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was making way too much sense. So I started trying to research it myself, and there was like a multitude of other videos on it. And what really caught my attention is, as you start to do research, like the Bible actually, verifies the Earth is flat and stationary,
Plane.
and there's so many scriptures to validate that you can't find any that really support a spinning sphere in space going, thousands of miles an hour. That's not in there. So, in any case, that was my journey, and one pivotal moment was that really God just asked me a simple question, in that season, like, what are you going to teach your children? And at that point, we didn't even have children at that point, and I just thought about, I was like, what will I teach my children? The future children we're going to have, and so that's kind of like the genesis of everything, was that experience. And as far as like the book, how it came about on a practical level, was that we were at a party, a birthday party in the Bronx, and I had told my friend that I'm starting to believe the Earth is flat, and the Bible supports that. And
Oh no.
he out of
Yeah.
in the
Oh
jerky,
no.
the jerkiest movie you could possibly do. He told everybody. I mean, everybody at
Yeah.
the party, hey
Curtis
guys,
believes.
stop the music. Curtis thinks the Earth is flat. And as a Christian brother, I don't know why he put me on the spot like that, but
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I have
Yeah.
to defend myself because this is literally everybody we know. I told him this in
Yeah.
private, so I'm on the spot. All of a sudden, I gotta back this thing up, and the only thing I think the Holy Spirit just dropped in my spirit, like, dude, just draw out Genesis chapter 1. So I literally sat down at a table, all the guys around me, and we just went line by line, and I said, hey, okay, what's the next verse? And I literally just draw it out line by line. It says the Spirit of God is hovered on the surface of the water. We drew a body of water with God's Spirit over it, and just line by
Oh
line.
wow.
It talks about the firmament. So I drew the firmament. We actually looked up what firmament meant. So we were all clear, like this is what it's saying. So I just drew it. Like it means a dome.
Yeah.
I drew a dome underwater, and I just went line by line. So that's kind of how the idea of the book came about, on a practical level, because we really wanted to illustrate not just to our friends, but like our children. Like, okay, how do you explain this to a child? What the shape of the Earth is. So in any case, that's kind of the beginning of the book. But my wife, she had an experience at CC as well that I'm sure she wanted to bring up.
Yeah, so you talked about Wow, Curtis and Nkechi, you're so bold and all of this. I can't take credit for that. I think I blame my parents for naming me Nkechi, because my name actually means God's own, and my maiden name, which is my middle name now, means lion. So like my identity is
Oh,
God's own lion. So I'm just like, bring it. If you give me the truth, I'm going to stand by that, and come what may, that's just where we're going to go. So that's kind of how God brought us together in the first place. And he mentioned the story back in the Bronx. I had to like comfort him after that humiliating experience. And fast forward to like, I think maybe like a couple years after that, after having kids, and our first son started off kindergarten, and he started homeschooling in a homeschooling community. And I had to come with him to the community days, and I started witnessing the indoctrination happening all over again in this
mm,
faith-based homeschool community. And I was just like, oh no, this is happening again. And my heart started pounding really fast when the tutor kept saying, and oh, by the way, and do you know that some people, because we're talking about creation, not creation, but we're really just talking about how the earth is made and it's spinning and everything, just following the script. And
yeah.
she said something along the lines of, and do you know some people actually believe that the earth is flat and still, or something along those lines. But what got me was that they must be arrogant, or they must be, she basically made it seem like it would be stupid for people to think that. And in my heart, I just knew we had to do something about it. And my husband and I started searching for books that we could use to undo the indoctrination beyond just showing our son the scribbles like he made back in New York City. And we realized that, okay, that this book didn't, there was nothing that existed. And God put it on our heart. He said, you write this book, you do it, you solve the problem. And the rest is history. I was a poor English student. I hated learning or just anything that had to do with education for the most part as a young person. But somehow he empowered us for almost 2 years, for over 2 years, with no experience previously, to create this book. And we're just so blessed now that it exists, and people are just messaging us and saying thank you, and this really helps. And they've been trying to communicate this message. So sorry we went extremely long, but that's the backstory.
No, I was hoping for that. I was hoping because I want to see the journey because I don't know the journey, and
Yeah,
I knew there was something to that. So I like that you were able to go into the war zone of indoctrination
yeah,
and experience that because I feel like as believers we need to be exposed to that. When you don't see it, you don't know there's a war going on. And I was a public school teacher for 16 years before this year, and so I was in that trench of warfare, and
mhm,
it is openly warfare
Mm.
against the Father's truth of creation. And so it's tough to see it. And that heart racing feeling, I
yeah,
had it a couple years ago. That's what prompted me to start Creation Standard.
mm,
And it was, or a part of the journey that helped me start that. And it was that feeling of like, I just want to scream out. I know you just want to be like, shut up. Like, let me show you the truth. Like you're indoctrinating these children. And man, it is hard to hold your peace, especially when you've got mouths to feed at home. You don't want to lose your job. And so
mm,
I can
Mm.
relate to that feeling of just anger, but like, what do we do now? How can we arm ourselves with something? And so
mhm,
things like this that don't exist need to exist, and it's amazing now that the Father's using people like you guys to create stuff like this. And I want to see it prosper at a level to where we're seeing things like this showing up in book fairs. Like I
Mm.
would love to go to those elementary book fairs. And even if it's like us parents going to our local schools and like putting them in there ourselves, like, oh, I want to check
yeah,
out the book fair, put it on the display. People are
yeah.
not going to notice, like doing things like vigilante style to get the truth out there because these
Absolutely.
children are vigilantes. These children, they like the truth that resonates with them, and I've seen it change their lives at such an early age. And I could only imagine how my faith would have been had I known about the firmament when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, instead of
That's
quoting
right.
the names of false Roman deities out loud and singing it as if
Mm.
that's where we live. And It's a big difference, and I've seen that with our children, with the homeschool children that I have. The
Mm-hmm.
best students I've ever had, the best parents I've ever had, and I've had a lot of good students and a lot of good parents. But it's not like they tell us on TV that there's all these just negatives, that they're being brainwashed. They're not learning enough. They're producing the best work I've ever seen, and they've got the best manners. And I've never in my life, maybe more than a few times, been told, "Thank you for the lesson today." I get told that every single day by these
Wow.
children.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Wow.
this lesson. It was a blessing.
Mm.
Thank you. Like the manners and the gratitude, powerful. It's
Yay!
amazing.
Go teachers!
So you guys, when you guys get this book out to these people, these parents, they're going to be saying the same thing. Thank you so much. This is amazing. I needed that because I tried to make something similar with
Hmm.
like just a presentation form. And my goodness, now I think next year we're probably just going to read your story out loud for story time.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
Be like, guys,
That's
I hope you have your copy of the of the book that I didn't even give the title of it. I feel bad. The title of this book is Who
yes.
Said the Earth is Flat? And it's
sure.
a courageous adventure to discover biblical flat earth truth. That's what the cover that I have says. There it is right there. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it.
I like it. And so
Yes.
I've only seen, I need a hard copy. I've only seen
We'll
the
send it to
virtual
you.
copy.
Just give
But
us your
yeah,
mailing address. You'll get one.
Not
yeah.
on
So
camera.
what?
Not a camera.
Yeah. All right. It is. Now write this down. Here's my bank account information. But yeah, that is something really cool to see. Just the artwork and
Mm,
the sounds with the audio version online that you can go to, and man, it's really immersive. It kind of like puts you
mhm.
in the classroom environment when you
Mhm.
hear the background sounds and the children's laughter and all that. Like it makes it better than just hearing it read to you. It's
Yeah.
something cool about that. So yeah,
Yeah.
really good job, page to page. I went through it again um, this morning and was listening to it and kind of going back through it. And I thought, man, that is so cool how it does take you on that journey biblically,
Mhm.
scientifically. And then at the very end, I even noticed there was a lot of little seeds to be
Scriptures.
planted with more scriptures, additional scriptures to spark conversations,
Yeah.
to help give people a guide. Because sometimes you forget about them when people put you on the spot, like at the birthday party. All the scriptures you have are kind of like they go away for a second. You're
Yeah.
like, hold on, let me get out my phone. It's like you forget. And so that would be good to keep it in your car with you, maybe keep it in your purse. If you get a big purse, keep that book in there and be like, oh wait, here you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so
Being
much.
able to just have those conversations at a, like you were saying, at an early age really does shape your character. And that's really what we're after, is making sure that the children of this new generation, they can like cut out all the indoctrination, cut out all the um, like the mistakes and kind of the decisions that they could have made differently, um, had they just known the truth, and acted on the truth that they already know, because that's what's going to distinguish us in the days to come. It's not just about the truth, but it's also being able to take action with the truth that so that you can have a much more aligned outcome to what God actually wants for us in this day and age. So that's, yeah, the flip side of deception is discernment.
Yes.
So that's what this is all about. People say, why are you writing a flat earth book? Why would you put your name on a flat earth book? It's not just about the shape of the earth. That's great to know, and it's
Yeah.
highly increased my appreciation for God our Father and his creation. Like when I see the sun coming during my quiet time, I know who set the sun right there, and how it's operating. So it's done a lot for my worship lifestyle as an adult, and I just cannot imagine what kids who start off knowing this, what their lives are going to look like.
Yeah, because I started off as a kid who loved science. I used to want to be an astronaut,
Yeah.
and when they get you caught up in all that stuff, it really does separate you from God. I had the hardest time coming to believe in Jesus and in God, because I had all this stuff all this scientific nonsense in my brain. And so, like, having this as an outlet for children to really be able to learn what the Bible says and believe that, I think it could be invaluable for generations to come.
And
and
this is
cut.
just the start, like,
Yeah.
because there's more topics, right? We talked about indoctrination, even within church. There's a lot of indoctrination that we're slowly but surely unlearning and relearning the right things, like his name, like so many things that we
Yeah.
don't necessarily need to get into here. But there's so much that I think we've missed because we just trusted. You know how the book says, "Trust the science." Well, we also we trusted the religion. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So we need to like get back to looking at what the Bible actually says and letting God speak to us and convicting us to do something different with that knowledge.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah. And that's really powerful too, because I know there's so many other lies like you're talking about, from a basic mainstream Christian, all the lies we've had planted, to the false science. There's so many different books you could make. For just like, I got a phone call a couple days ago. It was amazing because my stepbrother, my mom passed away several years ago, and so my family, we kind of just spread. I hardly ever see my step siblings anymore, and I
Mm.
ran into him. I felt led to just stop by. We were driving past his work, and I was like, I'm gonna stop by and see this guy. I haven't seen him in like a year,
Oh wow.
and he found out I was teaching online. And then he talked to his sister, who was like, "Oh, he started this program." She found out about creation standards somehow,
Mm-hmm.
and he calls me and he's like, "I got a question. What about dinosaurs?" You know, like he starts asking me these questions, and so it's
Oh
like
yeah, I saw that video.
people are now open to
Yeah,
things like dinosaurs and
yeah.
things like evolution being a fraud. And
Mhm.
then he started telling me, he's like, "You're gonna think this is crazy, but I don't think the world is like we've been told." And I'm like, "Yep, that's crazy." No. But it's true, you know. It was amazing. I had this long conversation. I'm like, oh my goodness, even my own family now looking into this and finding this and questioning things like dinosaurs, but not having the resources and the books. They don't exist yet. This is a new powerful thing where we're essentially realizing the Bible that we had was a history book and a science book
Mm.
combined, as well as a guide to how you live and an instruction manual, you know, and it's got all these different aspects that are so prophetic and show us what we're going through now. And it's all in those stories that we read that we thought, you know, well, that was significant to them in their time, when in reality we're still being called out of Babylon. We're
Wow.
That's
still
right.
learning from that wilderness experience.
Yeah.
And I like, we were reading Jubilees a couple months ago, studying that book. And the
Awesome.
very end, it tells you what that wilderness experience was about. It says it took them, you know, those 40 years learning the commandments. And here we are learning the commandments.
Wow.
I
Mm.
still need another 40 years to learn this stuff, you know, and
You bet.
people want you to have all the answers right now. Like, oh, how do you do that? How do you live like this? It's like, we're figuring it out. We are
Yeah.
out getting called out of Babylon, which is essentially
Wow.
Egypt. And
Yes.
we're in that wilderness experience where we're learning the
Mm.
commandments. We're learning about holy days instead of pagan holidays. We're learning about all these
Wow.
powerful things, and it takes time. When they were coming out of Egypt, I'm sure they were like, "Yeah, but we used to hang a wreath on the door and do this and do," you know, like Father's like, "No, here's your appointed times. Very simple, you know."
Wow. You know, it's funny you mentioned that. We're on the same journey.
Same
You know, I got
journey.
goosebumps when you
Yeah,
said that because
yeah,
we're literally on that same track, and God has just really shown us this is how I want you to live. You know, this is how I want you to live.
yeah,
And
And it takes time, like you're saying.
yeah.
Spent 3 weekends actually taking time to observe it, the Sabbath, and it's like night and day. Not even doing
yeah,
that, but I feel like
yeah,
we literally just have like our toes dipped in
yeah,
this whole understanding of how we should live. It's a very,
hmm,
very important question, and it cannot happen overnight.
Yeah.
But thankfully for folks like yourself and others who are just, you've gone much further in this journey, and you're willing to tell others about that. Like, we need that as believers, all trying to please God. That's the number one reason why we exist, is to please God and serve people, not the other way around.
yes,
You
yeah, and
know?
that's hard. That's really hard. But I was looking back at Isaiah 56 because everybody has this identity crisis. Am I a Jew? Am I a Gentile? Am I a legalist? What am I, a Hebrew rooter? What am I? But about pleasing him, he talks about in Isaiah 56 the things that please him. It's
Mhm.
about the things, and it's like, man, when I was trying to decide, should I keep the Sabbath? Should I do this? I was always thinking about, like, how is this going to affect my job? How is this going to affect
Yeah.
me? Because I've been doing this coaching thing for years. I've been doing this certain way, and
Mhm.
you know, like you have all these me type of
Sure.
things we do, and it's been a blessing to me because I was scared. I was scared to keep Sabbath. I
Wow.
was always under the impression with the mainstream Christianity that if you start trying to keep certain aspects of the law or whatever, you would just be under this curse. Like it was just, oh,
Yeah.
you're doing away with the sacrifice of the Messiah if you do that. And I remember arguing with my wife when she was a Sabbath keeper for, geez, her whole life. And when I met her, I thought Sunday was the Sabbath. Like I was like, okay, well, you're doing it on Saturday. Why are you doing it on Saturday? And so it was a learning curve for me, and she was patient with me. Women can be, I guess, really patient with us men, and
Oh,
she
no.
was. She would just, and I'm like, now that I'm doing it, I'm like, this is such a blessing. It's not a curse, it's not a burden, and
Right.
it's
Yeah.
like it's very peaceful. And my studying and like just getting out of that rat race of this world, it's like you step into a different realm where you have
Mm,
Mm,
this heartbeat, this pulse that's just rhythmic from creation all the way to now
unbelievable.
the millennial days, like how it says in Genesis chapter 2, these are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were made or when they
mm,
were created. And it's right after it talks about that seventh day rest, it says that. And so it's like
Mm.
there's a foreshadowing of the generations, and we're getting close to that seventh day. And I think you guys can see that in the world with the politics and the things leading toward the events we read about in Revelation. So
Yep.
many things, the lawlessness rising, the mystery of iniquity. It's like
Yeah.
all this stuff is starting to make sense now that we understand the Bible, prophecy. But it
Yeah.
starts in Genesis. If you don't understand
The
Genesis, it
begin.
makes
Why
a lot
go
of it
on? That's
not make
right.
sense. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Curtis says that all the time. If you're not solid on Genesis, why move on to Revelation? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally the first chapter. You don't
it's
believe
the
that?
first
Stop
thing.
Yeah.
reading. So
Yeah.
you got to make sure you get that solid and down. But yeah, like celebrating the Sabbath has really been refreshing to me. And because
Yeah.
I've been going, but just taking a day off, spend time with your family, spend time with God is a beautiful thing, to be honest. And so yeah.
I had an encounter last Saturday on that, and I'll, let you ask us whatever else you have. But last Saturday, I had an encounter with God, and His Holy Spirit just revealed to me, I created this day to bless you. That was the
Wow.
entire reason. It's just to bless you and to be with you. And as
Yeah.
a new believer of almost 14 years ago is when I got saved. Um, all I wanted to do was just to please God and to allow my life be a testimony. And I was mourning because I was like, oh, Father, I cannot believe I missed this for 14 years.
Yeah.
But there's hope, there's hope because there's no condemnation to those who are in Christ. But I felt sad that, oh my gosh, I could have been pleasing my Father in this way this whole time if I had just
Yeah.
stopped to think and understand that in a different way than I was just taught.
Wow. Well, I got emotional hearing that because I, I can relate. I looked at my wife a few months ago and I said, "How did you let me miss out on this for so many years? Why didn't you tell me it was a blessing like this?" Like I just couldn't. I didn't see it as a blessing because I was going out and doing my own thing. And once I finally did it, it was like it's one of the Ten Commandments.
Mm,
It's the love of God that we keep His commandments. It's not by me being a legalist that I do that. It's not by me saying I'm justified by my works now that I'm doing this. And you'll hear these things a lot. I will warn you. You're going
yes,
to hear,
yeah.
well, you guys are just justified by works, and it's not about works. And it's like, not once in my life have I ever said I'm justified by works. When He saved me and did miracles in my life, I believed in the heliocentric model. I was not keeping Sabbath. He reached out His mercy. He picked me up. He cleaned me off as best as He could. And then I took some time refining to get to where I am. And it's because He was guiding us, along the way. And so it wasn't about my works. I would have never, ever looked into biblical cosmology if it wasn't for the Holy Spirit or me asking.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
It was truth. Be
Yeah.
careful what you ask for. As I know you guys ask for the
Yes.
truth and ask for
Yeah.
certain things, and then He answers. And I remember asking, just use me, use me, and I want to be used by you. And then you
Here we
start being
go.
used, and you're working really hard. And I remember I was telling this pastor I go and see occasionally. His name is Steve Martin. I was telling him about it's the most work I've ever had to do in my life here lately, and he said, "Well, yeah, everybody wants to be used, but as soon as you start getting used, it's like, oh, this is too much. It's too much work. It's just it is, and that's what it is. Being used and being a servant, like Yeshua talks about, call nobody um, father. You have one father, and call nobody your leader. You have one leader.
Hmm.
Everybody wants to be that leader type, and it's like the greatest are the servants, and the
That's
greatest are
right.
the humble. And so,
Mm,
being a servant is what He was doing. He was being a servant and showing us how to serve, and all the things he did was not about pleasing himself and making himself happy and well, let me just have my, whatever it was he wanted. It was a distraction. He was doing good on the Sabbath. He was doing all these things. And we
Mhm.
don't look at him as a legalist, and he kept the law perfectly. That's the crazy
That's
thing is
the
like,
irony.
Yeah.
yeah, no one's like, oh my gosh, he was such a legalist. He kept the law perfectly, you know. Seek
Yeah.
a love, and that's what he said. Let your light shine. That light, that love, let that shine. Don't make it be just about, hey, come here, look what I'm doing. I'm resting on Sabbath. Look at me. I'm gonna take a photo of myself, post this on social media. Here's me resting. Look how righteous I am.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a blessing. It's about him, like you guys said. I think that's powerful. I think it's cool that people are starting to see that. It's not making you under some sort of curse. Me
Mhm.
not dragging a big giant tree out of the attic and dusting the cobwebs off and all of that has not been a curse. Oh man, I just put away the Halloween decorations. Now I got to go get the paint done. We've got the Christmas stuff. Yeah, the blessing not doing that for
So
sure. But let me actually, because I know why people want to hear from you guys, is
yeah.
about where to find the book, how to get access to it, how to purchase, view it,
Hmm.
send good
I think
reviews,
it might
glowing
be good to
reviews.
show it too.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
we
if
can
you
share if
guys
we can
can
share our
show it.
screen. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cool. Let me share my screen real quick. But you can buy the book at WSTEIF.com, which is right here. Can you see that?
Yep, I can see it.
It's pretty simple, straightforward website. There's only one button to click.
Yeah.
We offer it in either a hard copy version or a digital ebook version, like Josh mentioned earlier, where you can actually hear and have the audio read to you. We've got some nice background music and noise and all the great stuff to really bring it to life. And
Hmm.
but yeah, you can buy either one or both, and
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
just to share the actual ebook, you can take a look at it here.
Earth is flat.
But it's like I said, it's read to you.
Josh, can you see the pages flipping?
Yes, that is so cool. That's what I like.
Awesome.
Like you're really reading a book.
Welcome, young, anointed, fearless one. Your revolutionary journey begins right now.
But yeah, it's
Oh, brother, my head is spinning, thought JJ. Listening ears, everyone? Asked Miss Junie. Let's talk about the solar system. Science teaches the globe-shaped Earth spins on its axis at about 1,000 miles per hour as it orbits the sun at about 67,000 miles per hour. Are you with me? Yes, chimed the class in unison. Great. As it orbits the sun also zooms through the Milky Way galaxy at approximately 500,000 miles per hour. Wow, Ms. Junie, that sounds too good to be true, muttered Skylar. Here we go. But it is true, said Ms. Junie. Just trust the science. Trust it.
trust the science. But I'm not going to read the whole book. But the fun part is really when it dives into the story of creation, and that's where it really comes to life. Because the heart of the story is like a father explains to his son, what is this all about? Why do you believe what you believe, Dad? And my wife did a great job coming up with that story to kind of build upon it, and we just illustrated what Genesis says, line by line.
Wow.
God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty. Darkness was on the surface of the deep, and God's Spirit was hovering over the surface of the waters. Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through 2. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw the light and saw that it was good. God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. There was evening and there was morning, the first day. Genesis chapter 1, verses 3 through 5. God said, "Let
It's,
there be an expanse in the middle of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." God made the expanse, and divided the waters which were under the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse, and it was so. God called the expanse sky. There was evening and there was morning, a second day.
But yeah, it goes on from there and literally illustrates line by line what is going on from the Bible's perspective, like how God actually made the world.
Hmm.
And at no point does it really say that we're spinning out in space, on this ball with water on it, going 1,000 miles an hour around the axis.
That would
And
have been a huge oversight. That would have been a huge oversight if you
like,
did.
we just literally just draw it the way it said. We don't
But
try to add anything to it
it
or take
was
anything away
really
from it.
hard getting to this
But yeah, it
point.
was a lot of work getting it illustrated
Yeah,
and
finding an illustrator that wouldn't be too scared to actually do the project. That was like a very
Yeah.
surprising thing. You know, we asked people and they were like, you know what, my family, this and that. We just say, God bless you. And somehow, some way, God sent us the right person just in the nick of time. And this is what he was able to do. El Shaddai art. So yeah, that's just a sneak peek of the book. And it's the good thing is it can be read like multiple times. Like our kids, we have 3 kids. Two of them are elementary age and one of them is a toddler. They literally sit down and just pay attention to the book. That's their screen time a lot of the
Yeah.
time during the day. So, and they can kind of manipulate it and fast forward or what have you. So that, yeah, it's such a blessing to be able to have it for ourselves, but then for other people to share in the experience as well.
yeah, but you can get on your iPad, or your phone, you read on your phone, or you can get the hard copy, And but yeah, that's the book in a nutshell.
Wow. Yeah, I was picturing it being like this epic cartoon as well because it has that feel when you're
Feel,
watching. I could see the children being glued to it because I have a toddler as well, and I have elementary age, high school, college, and then one way out there, old. I'm so old, my children are almost my age now, and so it's
I've
weird how
never
that
heard
happens. Yeah, I've got one that's about he's almost caught up. I think he's a few years younger than me now, and
oh,
it's
so
scary how that happens. But they love stories, and I know
yeah.
my youngest he's 2 year old
Mhm.
son, he will ask for bedtime stories and will just listen to whatever I say and nod his head. Like he is so inquisitive at any story I tell, and he'll remember it. Like way later, he'll ask me about the frogs I was talking about,
Mhm.
their names. He remembers their names. Whatever I make up, he can
Mhm.
remember it. And my daughter, she's the same way. She's 7 and she likes these bedtime stories. And sometimes she'll say, tonight, just read me a book, which I like that because it's easier for me because my
Nope.
creativity gets wore out. And I'm like, I can't make up any more stories. I've made up so many because one every night for since she was 3 is like I'm running out of
OMG.
creative juices here. Let's get something going. So it would be nice to have that because one
Miss
day I
Steve.
convinced her about creation. Yeah, I was like, let me go through and tell you the story of creation, and she didn't want to hear it. And I said, all right, well, let me. And I had a puppet that I've been using for creation standard. I was like, let me use this, and so I like just started telling her the story. And she loves when you can get them entertained a little bit, and then they're like, the next night she goes, tell me another creation story. That was good. Like from the perspective of Adam and Eve or however you can do it. And so I think it's cool to have it from the perspective of the dad telling
Hmm.
his son and captivating his son before the world can get a hold of him, even though he's in that world, which a lot of
Already.
places and people don't understand this, it's
Hmm.
illegal to homeschool in most of the world. And
Wow.
so there's people that need something like this to help engage their younger children. They need a foundation to be planted at home because they're going into Babylon and coming home every day with these
Yes.
indoctrinations. And my son, he said it. He's the 14-year-old, the one that's in high school. He said, "Man, Dad, it's like we come home and we're in this one world, and then I go to school and it's a different world." And he
Hmm.
said, "That's how I feel. The
Hmm.
things that you guys care about, they don't talk about.
At
The
all.
things that they care
Hmm.
about, you guys don't talk about. Like it's just a reverse." And I'm like, yeah, that's how it is. I'm sad that you're growing up in times like this, but it's getting better. And at least you have a foundation because you're going to be exposed to more lies. Heaven
Yeah.
forbid he go to college. He's going to be exposed to so much more. So
I love
you never know. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the most left-leaning place ever, going to
Yeah.
He
college.
said, heaven forbid.
Try-
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to find a wife in college. I remember I was like the morals and the
Mhm.
everything. I just was like, Father, I know there's somebody out there for me. I
Mm.
don't imagine them being in this place. I don't see how they could be here, but I'll if I can find somebody here, that's great. But I just don't think they would exist. And if they do, like how? How did they survive in this environment? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I was not thinking about God at all for 4 years.
Yeah, I was the
Yeah.
bad
Sadly,
one.
That's
sadly.
like the goal. It kind of turns you into this unique type of almost, even though
Soulless.
I had faith, almost kind of atheist because you're around it so much. It kind of, you just
Yeah,
kind of get in that mindset like, well, we're just here to do this job, get this done. And then eventually, once I get married and have all that stuff, then I can get a relationship with
that's
God again,
right.
get back on track. And it leads to depression, it leads to darkness, it leads to sadness, it leads to heartache, it leads to putting your trust in the world, making
Mm,
foolish, dumb mistakes. And it's like that's what the enemy wants you to do, and then get you in this condemnation cycle and just ship
Hmm.
you away into his worldly ways for the rest of your life. But
yeah.
what a blessing it is to see you guys coming together, a union made in heaven. I mean, literally, before you were born, the Father knew these
Hmm.
people are
Amen.
going to be made for each other, you know, and
Amen.
he had a blessing set aside for you because you're his inheritance. And that's what people don't understand is
Yes.
he calls us his inheritance. And that's powerful. We're thinking about streets of gold and he's thinking about you. You know, he's thinking about
Amen.
meeting with you. The creator of the
Yes.
firmament, the creator of all of this is like, I just want to
Yay.
meet my children, you know, I want to
That's
unite with them
right.
and
Mhm.
let them reign with the beloved son that he's given all this authority to. So it's a powerful journey, and you guys are a big part of proof of his creation and his intelligent design and his guidance, bringing people together to do things that fulfill his purpose and his will. So thank you guys for doing that, being humble about it, not being prideful, no matter if you get discovered, you know. Thanks to
You're
us,
going to
yeah.
just meet with, the God's own lions when
Yeah,
it's just going to be more of the same.
yeah.
Thank you so much, man. It's been
And
such a blessing. We
yeah.
appreciate it.
And Josh, with the creation standard, you're making a huge difference with just making a bold stance to do that,
Mm.
in and of itself. When I saw your YouTube for Creation Standard, I initially didn't connect the dots to Founding Earth Brothers, but the more I listened, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a great idea. Like, this is kind of what we're trying to achieve, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. So yeah, thank you for doing that as well, because it's needed. And you're doing it in a refreshing way. I'm not sure if the sign up is already over, but I'm sure you probably see us at some point getting
Yeah.
enrolled, because we have a lot to unlearn and to learn.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I'm learning more than I've ever learned in my life since the Father helped me step into this journey because I was terrified. The most scary decision I've ever made was stepping out of my cozy job, and I wouldn't have done it
Wow.
without him saying, "Here, have peace," because I was terrified. I mean, I came down to the last day to turn in my contract because I was that scared. And
Mm.
so, I mean,
Mm.
just as soon as I turned it in, though, it was like peace.
Peace.
And so, I mean, it's like
Yay.
you've done the right thing. Here's what you're supposed to do, you know. But it
Amen.
was it was terrifying, and I've learned so much this year. And it's setting down like that script, like you said, they're reading from the script. I had to set down my script, and I forget that I've got this freedom now where I can just come out and pray with the children right before we start class. And used to, I would sneak the word intelligent design in as much as I could. And now I don't have to be sneaky. It's just part of our vocabulary. And it makes
Awesome.
Yay.
the world make sense. When I was trying to learn about air pressure and the airs above us and all these different things and why do balloons only float this high and all these different things that I was trying to understand. How does this work on a biblical earth versus the globe earth? Like how, like how does this stuff work? Once you start thinking, we had an intelligent designer that made the air we breathe to be the way it is at creation. If he
Hmm.
made it to be like helium, because he had to engineer these things to work the way they do, it
Hmm.
wouldn't stack up at the right level. It would go all the way to the top and
That's
stop,
right.
above what it's more dense than or less dense than. And
Mhm.
so he designed things to stack up the way they do so that the air that his creation needs, what's precious to him,
Would
it stays down at
come.
their level.
That's
No
right.
higher, no lower. It goes to the top of Mount Everest and down. You start getting above that. It's like, why would he make air to go that high up? If he filled the entire expanse with air like a balloon, we would be flying planes into the firmament all the time because we are just
That's
at that top.
right.
We would be like, I'm gonna keep going. He knew what he was doing when he engineered everything. So
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
cool when you start seeing the master engineer aspect. You're like, makes sense. Everything
Yeah.
makes sense. So yeah,
Everything
this
makes
is
sense. Like
hopefully
Antarctica is like a desolate place. You have to go out of your way to get
yeah,
there. And if you
Hmm.
get there, you got to climb this, 200 feet up in the air and then start climbing across ice. And there's nothing to eat out there. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, he put it in such a way that we are like really encased in an environment that really wants you on the land.
yeah.
Where it's
That
best.
Stay
dry
stay
land called
here
Earth.
where it's comfortable. Don't go there.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, my dream, not just as the authors of this book now, I'm like my first job is to be a child of God, a wife, a mom to the kids, a teacher to them as well. And then as entrepreneurs and founding Yafo Revolution, like what you've done with Creation Standard, my dream is to help kids, as many kids around the world as possible, answer four questions through everything that we create and sell or just give. Who am I? Where do I live? Why am I here? And how am I supposed to live? Those are four fundamental questions that I think every human being, especially from childhood, if they can get those answers from a biblical worldview and from a biblical mindset, then I feel like I've done what God has called me to do in this generation, which is to make sure that fearless children are experiencing his fullness of his love and are doing what they've been called to do. So they don't end up bound, broken, and broke as adults, like we almost.
Yes. Yes. Like I found myself needing the miracle of a healing of a broken heart. Like
Wow.
I hope my children can avoid that because that is a
Yeah.
and it like that was so powerful what you said, those four things. And yeah, that
Yeah.
is it's hard to teach it if you don't know yourself.
That's
And for
right.
years, most people don't. And even me, I'm still figuring that out is like how we're supposed to live and all these different things. It's like I can't minister to somebody and teach them if I don't know. And I felt like for years it was my job to get everybody ready. And I'm like, how can I get them ready? I don't even know how to be ready myself. My bags aren't even
Mm,
packed,
mm,
like I don't even have all this stuff done. And so
yeah.
yeah, it's a learning journey, but man, it's powerful to have the tools and the knowledge and everything that we have access to now. I can see there's a shift with the control of information. And so it's good to have these solid copies out there in abundance
Absolutely.
to be handing out once, because they've already blocked the sharing of information like this or finding of information. We can still share it, but
Mhm.
finding it is not possible. If you came into this new, like we were blessed, you came into this before I did, and back then you could find stuff and now you can't. And
Yeah.
so it's good to have hard copies. I've actually heard real testimonies from people who were atheist. They're now not atheist, and not because they found something on the internet, but because they came across a book, and a
Mm.
book that was about the biblical earth. Like one of the books was from the 1800s. It was
Wow.
is the earth a globe, is the Bible from heaven? I think that's what it was.
Mm.
um I think it was by Alexander Gleason. Is that his name? The guy that made the map?
Oh, yeah,
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 I think it
yeah.
yeah,
was
he
that
made them
guy,
out.
same guy with but he's got a book. And this guy came to a meetup of ours and was like, I was a full blown atheist, full fledged, and just came across this book, started putting it to the test, and here I am. Like I just wanted to let you know that truth is changing lives. I'm not an atheist anymore. I believe in the Creator. I have a relationship with the Creator now. Like
Wow.
so, you never
I
know, and
didn't
it may
hear
be
that.
you don't see the impact. Like this might be a story that somebody reads at age 5, but then they get lost in the world, they become a rebel or whatever. But those seeds were planted, they're going to have them. And when the false sign comes
Amen.
to the forefront, it'll save them generate like years from when they
Hallelujah.
Amen.
found it. So
Amen.
Amen.
I know that's y'all's goal with this, is to have these children have this foundation so that
Yes,
when they are
100%.
sent out into the world, because you never know. Like I said with my son, I love him. He's got a solid biblical understanding. My 14-year-old, 20-year-old, but like once they get out into that world,
Hmm.
they are exposed to everything and they're in front of devices 99.8% of the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
it's crazy how much information is being rapidly fed into their minds and it affects them. And
Mm.
we don't know what that's like because we didn't have it. And so we're seeing that. And as a teacher, I saw that with my students, how fast they start yelling out random stuff that's just trending because they found it on the internet, and it changes the entire year because you're hearing phrases all the time. You're not hearing Bible verses all the time. You're hearing
No.
random trending phrases all the time. I worked at a middle school last year and it was the weirdest learning experience for me because I'm like, man, they're so influenced and there's so much in an identity crisis. And so it's
Hmm.
good to have the things you guys have. So I don't want to take up much more of your time. I know you
Yeah.
guys have donated a lot already. You have your precious children, and so blessed that you guys have joined us on this journey of bringing people to His truth. And your children are blessed. You guys are blessed, and so
Amen.
thank you so much
Yours
for your work,
too.
coming on and sharing this with our audience, because there's so many that I know are going to be reaching out to you guys either by email to say thanks or just to go to your website and hopefully find a copy of that book. So thank
Amen.
you
Awesome.
guys very much. Any closing words you guys have? Do you want to share or anything?
Well, just want to say, man, thank you so much again, Josh, for having us on. It's such a pleasure, and I do pray that this book would impact generations to come. That's really our heart, that this book would go on and on and on, long after we're gone, and bless children for generations to come, and hopefully avoid the lack of belief in God like I did at an early age. And I really pray that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anything?
For if you are my disciple, you will continue in my word, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. John 8:31 and 32. That's the mission. So go do that and be blessed, people.
Amen.
Amen. See you guys next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.